I will say sometimes I have to admit these are my words. I don't think if I have a company standing behind me say to believe in all this what I'm saying. I think it's a fantastic bridge to the question before. I made a drawing. It's a little bit I'm a legend meeting the post, and this is of course a little bit of a future. But I'm a lead visionary, and what does that mean? It means that I have to think a little bit ahead, and especially when it comes to a very operational business, which is the parcel business. And I'm mainly concentrating on the parcel business because in Denmark, where I am, we have hardly any letters left. Sweden, we are still working on it, but they are diminishing very fast when we come to the discussion about the bridge. But I'm trying to look into the technologies we have in front of us, maybe 3 to 5 plus years, and trying to see what kind of world is it we're going to have in 3 to 5 years. And one thing I think is very obvious right now compared to before is that technology moves much faster. And if I go back and ask, and I look in the Gartner survey, 1.5 years ago, the biggest problem we had in the future, asked CIOs, workforce. This year, when it comes to 24-25, workforce disappeared. It's down at something like 23% of the focus. Everything is AI. Does that solve the workforce? I'm not sure. It means we forget it, and suddenly we will wake up and figure out what we have to do about that workforce problem. Because if I look into statistics in Denmark of the youth, 83% is taking education towards a white-collar job, which means it's only 17%, which is actually going to help us solve the problems that we are working on, producing parcels at night, sorting with heavy goods, driving these vehicles, and maybe there is one of these autonomous vehicles. Let's see. There it was. And being a visionary gives you the freedom to think, but it also gives me an obligation to try to figure out, if I can look into the future, how can I backplan that? How can we start to use these technologies in the world that we are operating in order to make sure that the problems of the future is going to disappear? And we are a little bit of a two-man army in PostNord working on these technologies. And it's difficult to get that focus when you're working in a very executional organization. Because what is it that we need to fix? We need to fix the problems of yesterday. We need to think about the peak. It's just around the corner. So yes, I believe these ones are going to come. And why? Because we are forcing the cars out of the city. We have tons of parking spaces. And these people, they're very rich, by the way. They're huge companies. If you look into parking space, it's a big, big business. They need to find something to use these spaces for. This is a perfect place to have these one. Drive out, and maybe you have 6 hours to empty your pack station, instead of having, and it will come again maybe in 12 hours. These can, I'm sure, these can be packed automatically as well. But this is the thing that we have to think about. Is the human brain. And the human brain, I love there is an avocado there, by the way. But the human brain is the ones that talk about convenience. And what kind of convenience is it that we're going to have in the future? You know, I'm born in 62, so it's quite a long time ago, but my convenience has also changed all over. My favorite is actually not a parcel locker. I'm sorry, Andre. I have a Pudo Point just around the corner, 75 meters from me, who service all providers in Denmark. Which means that when I order stuff, I never know who's bringing it. I have no clue. Is it PostNord? Is it Bring? Is it DHL? Is it UPS? Who is it? I just push a button and buy, and I make sure that I get it to my locker, or to my Pudo shop. And I ask all my neighbors, because I'm, a little bit parcel-y, spent 38 years in the company. And I asked him, what do you think about this? Would you have a locker here? We can put a locker. I could probably arrange that with you, Klaus. And they say no, because they get the service that they want, because they have complete flexibility. And I think that this is a little bit about this. This is a convenience thought. Because we all have an individual convenience, and we as an industry like to put things in a box, and that is quite challenging. So I think this brain is one of the things we need to work on. What is it that we have millenniums? What do they think? We have the Zs. What do they think? The alphas. I have no fucking clue. Sorry in my language, but these guys are born completely digital, you know? So what are they thinking about the future? So think about that. This is where many of you are. Optimization, finding a formula for last mile. I had a presentation of Gita Krishnan, where he showed me this formula on how to calculate last mile. And I was happy it was not something I could solve very easy, because I thought I've spent quite some years trying to figure out. But there is enough in here for all of us to figure out how to optimize, because I think it is something that is very different from place to place. And in the future, we will also see that we can't just generalize. We will have to take area for area and look at demographics and look at what information we can get out of all the data that we are collecting in order to figure out which solution is the best. This is another thing. No matter how many people we are around the table, there's actually enough for us. If you look at last mile is a huge chunk. And I love when I think about, I'm meeting you guys here, discussing about your optimization model, your locker model. Actually, there's space for all of us. You know, because there are companies here who are using the microphone on a phone to catch the data on, are we taking the stairs, are we taking the elevator, in order to figure out, you know, more information about how the last mile is performing. You can take any little piece of the big puzzle, and there's still enough for all of us, which is good. But putting them together and finding the right combination, that's challenging. But I think it's quite mind-blowing that, you know, working with Bernard and with startups, and I really try to look at startups because I need inspiration for the future. They all find a place here. Maybe they're not all success, but one thing that, Andre, I was thinking about you. In 2004, I was fortunate enough to work in bpost, trying to re-engineer their whole logistic business. And I looked around for different services, and one of the services was in Paris. You could get delivered your oysters. And it's a little bit this, you know, it was not a success, but it was a possibility. Everything we do is a question about timing. You know, being in this business for 38 years, I've seen the most, and I've seen most of it has been bad timing. But I think timing is coming to multiple things right now, because everybody's hooked up. We can communicate with everybody, and that means that we can actually push timing. And if you ask somebody like Amazon, are they pushing timing? Yes, they do. They're just changing our behavior by giving us services. First, they probably put a lot of money into it, but they change behavior, and thereby they are changing the way that we want our goods. So, how will the future be? Of course, I'm guessing. But I think that the pillars that we have around us today and discussed quite a lot, I think they're still there. I still think that we have the home delivery. It is extremely convenient. And the home delivery is not just a home delivery anymore, it's actually a flexible home delivery. If you look into Denmark, what we've done is that we have 13 different places where you can have your things delivered home. You know, in the dog shed, in the garage, or whatever. Which means that you don't need to be home when you're home delivery. And then you have the lockers. Yes, of course they're there, and I'm going to get back to that, but the lockers will still be there. I think it's a fantastic network. And then you have the PUDO points, or the postal outlets. I think they still will be there, because they're quite efficient. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is that some of these PUDO points, which are our providers for the last mile, they become so big that they actually become our competitors. And we see tendencies to this, where a PUDO provider actually starts to give possibilities to have parcels sent in between their shops. So it's something to just think about. But there is a dark horse, and it's called time. You know, how do you want to have your services? How is that brain gonna configure the things and the thoughts that we have? You know, we don't know, but I think that these building stones will still be there. And I'm gonna talk about some of the big problems, not how we optimize a route, because there's so many bright people doing that. But one of the big problems, we talked about it today, is actually loading the van. Because what is the issue? The issue is the van should be out driving. It shouldn't be 10% to 20% of its time being loaded. We need to figure out a solution for that. So come on, startups, help us. We need to do something here to improve this situation. One thing I think will happen is this. No, it's not true. But something like that. I think what we will see is that sorting the parcel in a terminal will be integrated with the last mile. And how do I mean that? I think that we will find a process where we pack the vehicles automatically and send them out. Because I think there's so much money in that at some point we have to move away from the infrastructure investment we've already done in the terminals and move into something where we interconnect the packing of the vehicle into routes and let them go out and do what they actually should do, deliver parcels. Another thing we have to figure out, this guy, he's probably a little bit younger than me, he looks much better, but we're gonna have fewer and fewer drivers. And we are extremely dependent on them. So we need to figure out how we're gonna solve that problem, because it's gonna be an equation that which we have to solve. And so that is something that we have to really figure out, how can we help here? Because I know in Germany, this it's actually, we talk about a lot of thousands of drivers, and we're not talking about just for last mile, but also for the mid-mile that you actually need in the future. I believe that we will see till-operated vehicles, I heard that. And I believe we will see more of those. And I know that there's been one driving around in Berlin. I hope to see that one, but I saw the video at least. But I think that we will see something like this, that there will be one guy managing 10 vehicles. It doesn't solve our problem, does it? Because, you know, we can drive vehicles, but somebody needs to get the parcels out. I think it's something like this. We will have the vehicle drive out and meet a person. Because the future, he doesn't need to be a driver anymore. He just needs to be somebody that can help us to move something from a vehicle to the customer, to the PUDO point, or to the pack load. So I think that we will see a combination of this in the future. I might be wrong, but I think it will solve a lot of our equation when we talk about how we're gonna orchestrate the last mile. Congestion. This will be something, a topic. We already see it politically. Nobody wants cars in the city, especially the politicians. So we need to figure out something here. And this one, you know, the wall of lockers, I think that we will see for quite some time, we will see a battle about position, because it is a battle about position. And what does that mean? It means that if you're not there and have your locker, you're not having a part of the infrastructure that is needed to serve your customers. So this will be there, but it's gonna be a huge problem, because filling these lockers, we had a discussion today and say, how efficient is a locker? It's not super efficient. And the reason is that most of the customers who already use a service from a PUDO point, they are the ones switching to the lockers first. It's not the one who has the convenient service or have something delivered to the home. And that is a challenge when you come to the other equation which we had before with the driver or non-driver. You know, we have a car and we have a person. That's quite a lot of cost. So we need to figure out that if he stands at a wall like this and try to find, as you know, I saw in Helsinki, I was in Helsinki Monday, they have a wall of 1,058 lockers, compartments in the locker. And running around there, packing that, it takes quite some time. This is my last slide. That means I believe in the future we will have modules that comes from the terminal sorted, going directly into a locker, which is a robo-locker. We have seen tries of the robotic lockers today, but the future will actually make it happen because we need to actually move into a more speedy, service-minded thing where you just add a module into a locker. You have a Coca or whatever robot inside that just takes it out of a bin, puts it on shelves, and you get your message that this one is to be picked up. This is my take. Thank you very much.